Previously, in the aftermath of a very loud and magic-filled fight, the group encountered a strange woman who came running out of the nearby woods. She yelled at them to cover the sigil on the ground, modified the memory of the stable boy who witnessed the fight, and then ran off again with the group at her heels, since she seemed like a better option than sticking around for the Praetors. The woman led the group to a rundown inn on the edge of the city, where she gave a password and was given access to a private room. She then started to berate the group for dealing with shadow spawn so close to the city instead of leading them away first, only to abruptly stop when she realized that they had no idea what the fuck she was talking about. That then led to the group giving her a summary of the last few days of their lives. Proper introductions were then made. The woman was named Iris, and she explained to the group that there was an entire world that they didn't know about. She explained that there were ancient resting spots around the world where shadow spawn could generate. Whenever someone dispatched a shadow spawn, they took in the energy that they'd stolen from the world. It made the people doing the dispelling more powerful, but it also drew more shadow spawn towards them. Now that the group had taken some of that energy, they were going to be magnets for the shadow spawn. Around that time, they realized that Yara and Enola were still back at the other tavern they'd been at. Sean quickly volunteered to go get them, and Iris pointed out a passage she could take to get there quickly. Iris led the group to an underground tavern where they settled in for drinks while she went into more detail about just what they'd accidentally stumbled into. There were numerous groups of people who dealt with the shadow spawn in various ways. The least organized of them were the Breakers, and it was a breaker bar that they were in. Iris explained that all breakers had the same dreams, although it was suspected that the specific dreams differed depending on where people were location-wise. Everyone in the area had the same vision the group did a few days earlier. She also mentioned that she worked alone, although many breakers worked in groups. Tornek asked how she managed to dispatch the shadow spawn on her own, since the ritual required 3 people. She explained that the ritual he was using was one used by the Guardians of the Veil, who always worked in groups. She used a gem like the Praetors used, although other people had their own means. Taria went up to her room to recover physically and mentally from the earlier fight. Several unwise decisions were made in regards to alcohol consumption, and it quickly became obvious that Tornak wasn't taking things well. As the evening started to wind down, Keelan went to check on Taria. Zaya tried to eavesdrop, but it quickly became clear just what she was doing, so Taria invited her in to have a proper conversation. Taria explained that she had no idea how she'd suddenly become larger during the fight earlier. She was curious and wanted to explore it, but she was also scared and concerned. The 3 of them talked for a bit before Zaya headed back to her room. Keelan stuck around for a few minutes, but he quickly realized that Taria had gotten distracted by the idea of trying to enchant something, and he made his excuses to leave. He almost made the bad decision of leaving the chicken with Taria, but he realized at the last second that would be an unfortunate idea. Elsewhere, Sean got a shot from the bartender to take back to her room. Once inside, she set up a small altar on a shelf where she placed the full shot glass, a gold coin, and a card that she drew from her deck. She closed her eyes and semi-meditated for a few minutes, and when she opened them, the shot glass was empty and the coin was gone. She made a quiet comment about luck still being on her side before picking up the card and putting it back in the deck. Tornak stayed in the bar longer than was wise, finishing some drinks and opening up his ability to read minds simply to give him some white noise in his brain. After a while, Tornak headed back to Zaya's room. She was expecting Oz and was surprised to see him, but she still let him inside. He explained to her the reason that the storm upset him so much was because he lost his brother to it, making it clear that a lot of the things he was doing with his life were things that his brother had been much better at. He was simply doing them in his memory. Once they were done talking, Zaya went to Oz's room, and the 2 of them had a talk as well. Zaya accidentally called Oz by the wrong name as she was got ready to leave, prompting him to give her a knowing look and pull her into a tight hug. Then he said, "I miss him too." The next morning, everyone was dragged out of bed, some more willingly than others, and they gathered around a table to talk about their options. It was suggested that finding more shadow spawn might be a place to start. The group told Iris the direction they were headed in, and she gave them some information to keep in mind as they traveled. Then she said her goodbyes and headed out, as she was going in a completely different direction than the group. Enola, Sean, Taria, and Yara went to deliver Lady Feathersby to her owner, while the others went to deliver the rubbing they'd gotten in the woods. Lady Feathersby owner was thrilled to see her, and she gave them some gold and a dozen eggs in payment. Taria suggested heading to the Wayward Cartography Society to meet up with the others, only for Sean to point out another ad they'd seen in the paper about a selection of historical maps. Considering everything they'd found out over the last 12 hours or so involving the history of the world, Sean suggested checking it out. Taria agreed without any complaint. Meanwhile, the others arrived at the library that housed the Wayward Cartography Society. Keelan showed them the rubbing he'd made, pointing out where it had been found on a map. He made a comment about there being odd things where they found it, prompting the woman at the society to ask for more details. Keelan couldn't lie to save his life, and had no idea how to answer that question without bringing up the shadow spawn, but Zaya and Tornak chimed in to mention some of the odd details they'd noticed, such as the lines on the ground. The woman seemed excited to hear that bit of news, as the lines were something they saw occasionally around waystones and meant the rubbing was worth even more than expected. She paid them for the rubbing, and then she explained that the details the group had provided revealed the potential locations of 7 more waystones. Zaya asked for more information about the waystones, and the woman explained that there were lots of theories. Some people thought they were ley lines, others thought they once marked actual roads. When a somewhat sarcastic comment was made about underwater ones, she explained it wasn't such a far-fetched idea, as they definitely believed that there were potential waystones underwater. When Keelan made it clear that the group was considering searching for more waystones on behalf of the society, she revealed that there were 2 potential ones in the direction the group was headed. She asked if the group had a name for themselves, but she just noted down their actual names when it became clear that the group name was still up in the air. They all eventually headed out, planning on going to the newspaper office nearby. They ran into the other half of the group as they stepped outside, though. Before they had a chance to properly talk, an ornate carriage pulled up beside them. Sean went a bit pale, clearly recognizing it, and someone inside opened the window enough to hand her a letter. It said, "Come to the luminous vault of Dewstone at once and bring your friends." The group pushed back about heading straight there, wanting to do some other things instead. But Sean was insistent. She made it clear that things could potentially go very badly for the group if they didn't head that way immediately. She'd told them when they left Avanos that she made a deal with the devil to get an alibi to protect her family. It was time to see just what that would cost her. Once they arrived at the vault, an elven woman brought them a chest with 12 gold ingots inside. Sean was told that she and her companions were to go to the local temple, one run by the Empire, and make a public donation from the Valenta family. That would be their alibi. They were to do so wherever they traveled that had a temple. Sean immediately realized there were some significant implications behind that request, considering her family's history, politics, and usual rivalries. They headed out, some of the group asking Sean some questions that she gave vague answers to. Then they made their way to the newspaper office as originally planned. Keelan turned in his answers to a riddle while the group picked up a paper. The first message in the paper was about a bishop of the Empire-run temple being arrested by praetors on suspicion of magecraft. The temple had closed its door to the praetors, and tensions were already rising. Sean immediately understood that the first story in the newspaper had serious implications for her family, and explained just why the Luminous had insisted that the group head directly to the vault without going anywhere else first. Considering who and what they were, they'd clearly known the story was about to be released. Delivering money to the temples was going to draw all sorts of attention to the group, including from praetors. Paper in hand, the group got ready to run more errands around the city. And that is where we left off.